and welcome back to the OperaWire podcast. This is David Salazar, your co-host, here with my brother Francisco, who is also my co-host, and we have a special guest today, don't we, friend?
Yes, we do. We're excited to welcome tenor Jack Swanson. He is an internationally recognized tenor and entrepreneur who has performed at many of the world's greatest opera houses, including the Metropolitan Opera, Houston Grand Opera, and many more. And next season, he's making his Teatro La Scala debut. Welcome to the podcast, Jack.
Thanks. It's great to be here, guys.
It's great
Well,
to have you as well.
Yes, it is. And we just actually I was just reading, you just had a milestone with one of your signature roles, the Barber Seville. You just performed your 100th performance of Alma Viva in San Francisco. Tell me about this role and what it means to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So this role is definitely the one that's been following me the most in my career. I first did it at Rice University 10 years ago now, and it was kind of amazing that the last performance I did on Sunday was the 100th, just because it kind of rounded out this season perfectly. I was counting it up a few months ago, and I was like, yeah, it's gonna land right on that day, which is really cool. But Alma Viva is such a journey, that role. All the guys that I've talked to who perform it, Larry, Juan Diego, and have done it a lot. It's just one of those roles that you never feel like you've completely perfected. There's so many moments. There's so much music. There's so much detail behind each of the characters, that to see what works and to bounce it off of who you're on stage with. So it's really one of those roles that never gets boring, is the way I put it, even if you do it 500 times.
What are some of the, 100 performances, congrats on that. There's probably been several productions, all different perspectives. And are there any standouts there that really kind of give you pause when you're interpreting the character and kind of making you see the opera differently?
Absolutely. I mean, every production I've done has really brought a different flair. Sometimes it's the very traditional, more stand and sing, like I did the Pizzi version in Pesaro about 2 years ago, and it is just so classic. Black and white costumes. We go out, we stand there, we sing, and the amazing thing about that opera, Barber Seville, is it really works that way too. It doesn't have to be this crazy circus, of all these hijinks and running around and running out of breath. And then I've also done those productions as well, which bring their own flair. And sometimes the audiences, it really depends where you are. If it's an audience who's maybe more focused on really the intricate details of the music, or one that just really wants to be entertained. So I will say that the Pesaro one definitely sits with me, because the audience just so knows the music and is so invested in the piece, that it was really nice to just be able to go out and stand there and sing it, and as it's supposed to be. Zero cuts, by the way. There was a recit. That was probably, I think, my like 11th or 12th production, and there was a recit that I had never sung in the Pesaro version. So that was really cool. But then also on the flip side, I did one in Santa Fe that I think they're actually bringing back next season. That was kind of all over the place, running all over the place, crazy costumes. I come on as the count, kind of dressed as a traditional count, and then my disguise was like wearing a hoodie with like a high school branded hoodie. So it goes all over the place, and people in Santa Fe love that production, and people in Pesaro love the Pizzi, and it's just kind of maybe loving it for different reasons, but it's really fun to find all the intricacies of these roles, that way.
How is it when you're so used to singing a standard piece, right, with the cuts? It's done a certain way, almost ubiquitously anywhere you go, and then you go and you have to like basically relearn it. The pacing, yeah, I imagine especially with Rossini and the coloratura and all the
Yeah.
challenges vocally and musically. I imagine there's a different approach you have to take on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, each of the cuts, we the people that have sung it a lot, we get that initial cut list, and of course, we just go like, "Oh," or like, "There." We know the spots that are, you really, really have to either hope that the staging is very conducive to some of those ones that are left open,
Right.
Or if they cut them, you're like, okay, I can juggle and sprint all over the place and do it with that cut. So we know when I know right when it comes in, I'll be like, all right, this one's gonna be a little bit like that. And um but no, in the end, like I said, I really enjoyed doing it from top to bottom in Pesaro. And yes, there's always difficulties in this role. That's what I was saying from the beginning. Like the coloratura, your voice changes every year a little bit, and coloratura is something that each time you approach a role, even if you've done it again and again, is like, oh, this is just a little bit different now, and I got to see how that is working in my voice this time, and make sure that it's still clean, effective, healthy, and works within the musical limits that the conductor wants as well.
I mean, go ahead, Fran.
No, I was gonna say the role has brought you to your debut at the Met, and next season you're debuting it at La Scala. So what does that feel like, and what does it mean to be able to sing this role that is so now basically kind of like your signature of yours, and to bring it to these major debuts?
Honestly, I'm honored to be able to bring this piece to those places. I think so many people do sing these roles because it's one of the most popular operas of all time. But to find, when I first did it early on, I did it at Rice, and then I did it in Glyndebourne, and I did 22 or 23 performances for the Glyndebourne tour. And by the end of that tour, I was like, I've got this thing down. I know every little detail. I know every comic beat. I know, that's how after 3 months of singing it, it felt. And if I went back and watched, like either what I did or how I sang it now, or what I thought was funny in a classy way in some of the places, and I think I'd be like, oh man, that guy's got a lot to learn. And I probably will do, if I sing this for another 10 years, I'll probably do the same when I either listen to or see the things that I did this year. It's just, I don't think that's true of every role, and I don't think that's true of every comic role, but something about this one and something about Rossini and the way he writes, I think there is always something to discover.
I was gonna ask, because you did mention like with conductors. I don't think we often, like, certain operas. I think people look at the conductor and they feel like they're a major piece. But I think in Bel Canto they very much are essential, no matter what. Are there some conductors that have had like major influence on how you view not only this role but maybe this kind of music in general?
Yeah, that's a very good question. In the last year, I got to work with two really great Italian conductors, Giacomo Sagripanti, who was at the Met, and Lorenzo Passarini, who I did Barber with in Pesaro and did Cenerentola in Houston. And both of them, I felt, there is something to an Italian conducting Italian music. And not only that they feel very confident in that, but I think when the conductor feels, or at least portrays, and then also backs it up with confidence when it comes to bel canto, it's the most. Some people might say, "Oh, I don't want them to think like they've got it. I want to be able to give my ideas." But as the singer, you just feel safe. You feel safe when you get to work with somebody who really, really knows the music and really knows what they want to do and is making choices. There was a conductor I worked with early on. I'm not going to say the name, but I remember going to the first rehearsal, and I started the beginning of the aria, and he kept stopping and kind of cutting off, and I'd start it again. He'd say, "Okay, turn." Start it again, cut it off. Start it again, cut it off. And eventually, I was like, I did it 3 or 4 times. I said, "Is there something I mean, I'm just not sure what you're wanting different." And he said, "I don't follow the singer follows me." And I admit, this was early on for me. This is maybe 8, 9 years ago. And I remember just going, oh man, this is going to be a nightmare. But I have to say, that was one of those examples where this person, whether or not that's everybody's cup of tea, that's fine. But this person backed it up. When the orchestra came in the room, it was like everything was what I wanted. It's everything I would have wanted, chosen myself. if I could set all the tempos. And it's just that person was so confident that they already knew that and then backed that up with their experience, that was a big learning moment for me, of just kind of being like, oh man, this is not going to be fun. And then it ended up turning into like, you know what? I really like when the person down there is like, this is how we're going to do it. And I promise you, you'll be good.
I'm curious about that example though, because as you mentioned, he wasn't communicating, or the conductor wasn't communicating with you right away. You had to actually ask. In terms
Yeah.
of like with your experiences with conductors, do you find that conductors, I mean, everyone's different, different schools of thoughts, different generations, different perspectives on, you know, how you manage, how you manage a company, in this case, an opera ensemble. Um, have you found that, most conductors, I mean, how is the conversation flow with conductors? Like, how do you establish that from the get-go
I
to get
really think
comfortable?
it so depends. I mean, it just so depends on the person. It's like you can tell day one most of the time if you think that the conductor is going to be somebody who's really receptive to your ideas and experience or not,
Mhm.
And it's like, like I said, the story I was talking about before, like I was very, very green. I was very, I think that was maybe my third or fourth production of Barber. So it's like they don't care, they don't know who I am. They don't, it's not like they were like, oh, Jack, I gotta make sure it wasn't any of that. So I just think so much of it depends on the relationship, and then frankly the mutual respect of each other's resumes, frankly.
Mhm.
And I mean, whether it should be that way or not is kind of like, if it's somebody, now I've done barber enough that if I do it with somebody who's never done it, they're kind of relying on me in that way.
Mhm.
They're saying, does that seem like the right tempo? Is that it's just it almost flips itself that way.
Interesting.
um and again, it's so dependent on who you're working with. I mean, I could also work with somebody who's never done barber, and still it feels like, no, this is the way it goes. And I've had that too.
Interesting.
It's just that's the reality.
Yeah, I can imagine that there's people that have it ingrained that this is the way it is, and then that's how it's gonna be.
For sure, for sure. No question. And sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. But it's like that's all in the eye of who, me, the audience, the other singers on stage. There are some performances I've been to where people are like, "That was a mess," and I was like, "That's the best one I've ever seen." It's just so much of this. That's why they call it art. You can love, you could love some painting, and your brother could hate it, and that's okay. That's totally okay.
That's how it is. That's art. It's subjective, and that's also really important to
Yeah,
understand
yeah,
that even like when you're reviewing something, like you don't you're not doing it because you dislike the person. It's like maybe it's not your taste,
of
and that
course,
and
of course.
or you and someone next to you is gonna be like, oh my god, that was the best thing I ever heard. And
Yeah,
you
or
know what?
some are willing to make sacrifices over, that part wasn't my favorite, but they're so good at this. It's like, it's really nice when somebody can all encompass every single thing that you want, but it's also like it's sometimes like, wow, you know what? Well, that person was so funny in that scene. I don't care that their color tour wasn't great in that.
Right.
That person, their color tour is so good, but they're so boring in that or they've got it all. It's all in the eye of the beholder, really.
So I know that as a young singer, people are always asking about vocal health, and people are always asking about all of like how do they maintain their voices, and you know as a singer you have to constantly be ready. You never know you're gonna get a call, and so I know you've just released this Vocalise, this product, or I could say, and
Yeah.
I know that it's something that you did based on because you were really interested in figuring out how to maintain vocal health. Tell me about, why you decided to do that, and do you think as a singer today you have to also be an entrepreneur and you have to think outside the box when you're
Yeah.
maintaining your singing career?
Good questions. I'll start with just the vocal health portion. I do think, yes, this product, first of all, it's a tried and true product that I've used. Essentially, we're just bringing that product to the States because the States is just they're so far behind in some of the the things that are provided to singers in terms of vocal health in Europe. You know, I always talk to my singers or my friends when they go to Germany, they end up packing a little suitcase full of like things on the shelf that they can buy there that they just can't get here. I also think that this product in general is not meant to replace these things that people know and have been doing for years. You know, rest. There's no nothing to change out for rest. When you just need to rest your voice, when you need to get enough sleep, when you need to every once in a while steam your voice is great for it. Drink tons of water. You know, I drink still 10 to 15 of these a day, even if I'm not singing. It's just it becomes habit. This is essentially an alternative for NSAIDs, you know, and NSAIDs are like ibuprofen or even on the extreme end, steroid. And as singers, you know, we've all had that moment where we've gone in mid production and either had a cold that knocked us out or, you know, COVID. I mean, I've had COVID twice, and both times I was like voiceless the next week. It just like, it kind of depends on how it hits you. And this is not meant to cure COVID or to cure a cold, but it's essentially a anti-swelling uh, product. And the alternative to NSAIDs is because ibuprofen and steroids, well, they can be used, and obviously steroids need to be used sometimes, like as they are, if somebody's got a performance that night and they're feeling like, I can hardly speak today, but I could get through it with a steroid. Okay. I mean, I've heard it. I've talked to people who are like, and they go out and sing an amazing Nemorino or something. I'm like, okay, because steroids or whatever. But this is an alternative to that. One of the main ingredients is bromelain, which a lot of singers know about. It's a protein extracted from a pineapple. And when I was in Germany, actually maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I was doing a production where I had just come off a cold and I had a performance coming up, and I went to an ENT just to make sure everything was good. And essentially, when they scope you and they see, yeah, no, you're good to sing, but you look a little swollen. You know, they don't want to go as far as to say, I'm going to prescribe you a steroid. You know, like that's just so much further than what we need to do. But this ENT did say to me, have you ever used bromelain? And I hadn't at that point, and he just said, you know, you can just go grab it at the pharmacy. And essentially, it's just like a softer approach to the swelling in your voice, and it's not going to harm you. And that's kind of one of the main ingredients in this product. I was actually turned on to this product from another singer when I was in Italy. They said they told me to go to the pharmacy, order it, and essentially they were like, this actually is used a lot for gut health. You know, is like how they first were putting it on the market, but all the things in it are 3 proteolytic enzymes like bromelain, serapeptase, and papain, and then a turmeric, which a lot of singers will take turmeric as well. But this is essentially an accelerated turmeric that we're using, that because turmeric by itself does not have great absorption levels. I've learned all of this, by the way, just in bringing this over when I initially came back to the States and wanted to get something similar, and it's like, there's nothing here. So anyways, all of it has been used for years. Essentially, this is a product that puts it all in one, easy to find. There are so many also challenging things when it comes to supplements. You know, some are filled with a bunch of crap essentially, but marketed as the main thing. Some are enteric coated like ours. Like in order for these enzymes to actually work, they have to be coated a certain way to get to your digestive tract. Otherwise, like, you know, a lot of singers will say, oh, I'll drink pineapple juice to get bromelain. It's like, it really doesn't do anything. If you look into it, the pineapple juice the bromelain burns up in your stomach acid. So these are all things that you can, obviously, I don't need to bore all the listeners on. You can look it up. You can go to our website and read all about it, because to me, it was important that people really know what it is, you know, and everything behind it. And when I was first like doing this, you know, I've now consulted with people who do a lot of products like this, and they're like, people don't care about that. They're like, just say your voice is going to be a million times better. And I'm like, that's just not the truth. That's also not the truth at all. It's not going to give you high notes. It's not going to make you an overnight better singer. It is just designed for those times when you are maybe in the middle of heavy performance use and need a little bit of chilling out and active recovery.
Yeah, I mean, it's a conversation that I think people are always trying to figure out, and like figure out what exactly it is that you can do. I mean, I'm always kind of like, I'm startled when a singer goes out on stage and is literally, they announce is I know has a cold or whatever, and I'm just like, how did they just go and perform like that? I don't I it's always, it's a
Yeah.
conversation that I've always found really interesting, and
Yeah.
and I for one, like, I lost my voice, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and I was literally I don't sing, I'm not a singer, but I was like, I had to do a presentation, and I was like literally taking everything possible to get my voice back. So I mean, I props to the singers and to you guys who actually can pull off not having a voice and then going and doing whatever it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, it's so dependent, on what kind of voice loss it is. Because, like I said, I actually had something about a year ago. I was jumping in for a production, and I only had about 5 days of rehearsal. And I showed up on a Monday. We staged the whole show on Monday. And I kind of felt that I had maybe like a little bit of a cold coming on when I was traveling. I was actually flying from the US, of course, and flying to Germany. And it was, and I already felt like my son had something the week before. And I was like, I think something's coming on. But Monday I felt okay, staged the whole show. Tuesday was the Sitzprobe. And by Tuesday night, I just had no voice. It was like, and it wasn't even from over singing. It was just like that cold came in and I was in trouble. And we had 3 more days. I called the opera house. I was like, you guys, you can have me come in, but either I need to just be mute or you let me stay home. I know the show now. I promise I staged it all on Monday. Show's Saturday. And if you let me stay home and rest, I can probably do Saturday. And they did. And it went fine. But like you're saying, I woke up on Saturday still. Of course I didn't feel, oh, this is gonna be the best day of my life. But you have to make that decision, and you got to tell the house by noon, and you've got a show at 7, and you got to warm up to it. It's really one of the most stressful things in the entire career, because you feel like you're letting so many people down, and in a way you kind of are. But it's like when it's something that you can't really frankly control when it comes to illness, it's like you just have to do the things that work for you. And that's part of the reason that I knew that this product that I tried when I was feeling ill, like, complete was a complete game changer for me when I used it in Italy, um about about a year ago now. And I was like, this is going to now be in my toolkit, like, no matter what, I want this. And I wanted to, eventually, the reason that I started this is I wanted to be more accessible to others.
Yeah, I think with, like, with young singers, I think there's a lot of pressure nowadays because of so many things that happening. I mean, many opera houses have a lot of issues, and there's less opportunities in some cases. And I think, you started this venture, I would say. Um, but was that something, when you started as a singer? Did you ever think you were gonna be doing something in business and entrepreneur? Because I think a lot of singers now, whether they have a podcast, a book, or this, there's a lot
Yeah.
of they're doing a lot more than what singers, I think, in the golden age, you would say, were doing.
Would never. Yeah, and that's so true. And I think, ultimately for this, it was like I really love just new fun projects. I'm like somebody who can get bored a little too easily. So I actually created this with my best friend of 15 years. He's done things like this before. He's more of an entrepreneur than I am. And I just called him and was like, "Hey, like, this is just an idea of mine." And he was like, he's also like me. He's like, you know, he just pressed the metal. He was like, "Here we go." And so, yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it came about. I think it's an interesting question, that do singers now feel like they need to find something else per se? I really think it depends on the person. I obviously, like, this is just kind of like a side quest at the moment. I am still fully 100% invested in my career. I have a very full season that doesn't give me so much time to completely devote to this, but it's something that on the side, like as singers, sometimes we're doing a production and we have, for example, in Paris, I have 9 shows over maybe 25, 30 days. It's like in those moments in between, yes, I'm learning new roles, but you can only sing so many hours a day. And I wanted something else to keep my mind busy other than, what social media and, so, I was like, let's add another project there. And that's kind of how that went.
That's amazing. You said you have a 1-year-old, a 1-year-old. So
Yeah.
how do you balance now being a father of a toddler
Yep.
and traveling around the world? Because obviously, well, I mean, it's easier when they're younger, probably, but there's also a lot of challenges there.
Yeah, it's true.
How does that work?
I have a very, very, very good wife who is really, really, I mean, she is obsessed with our son, as am I. And we've been really lucky. She's also a singer, Catherine Henley. She actually we made our Met debuts the same year. She was
That's
in
right. I remember
Madonna
that.
as one of the Ninas when I did Barber. But luckily, thus far, our schedules have aligned kind of perfectly. When she's had things, I've been either free or could pop over. We've had people that could join for that. And he has been able to go in the first year and a half. I just told somebody yesterday, like 5 or 6 countries and 15 or 16 states in his first year and a half. And he's just great. I mean, he's a good traveler. I will say he loved San Francisco that we were just in, and he had a really hard time leaving on Monday because he knows now. He's smart enough that we're packing up the bags again, and he's called this place home for a month and a half, and then we're like, oh, we're getting on a plane, and he was just kind of like, oh. So it's nice that we get a nice break here at his actual home, and he loves our place in Minnesota. So. Um, He's just, I think it's so much depends on the kid. You got we'll keep watching, and if at some point it seems like he wants to be a little bit more rooted, then we figure that out. But so much changes in career, especially this career every year at a time. It's like I am a planner, so that's hard for me, but I can't say, 3 years down the line that for sure happens. It's just who knows? I'm not gonna go there.
I was gonna ask you about if you guys, because obviously you're both singers and you have different schedules, if there was a home base that you guys have at the moment.
Yeah, so we like to say that Katie's from New Jersey, Oradell area. I don't know, Paramus, if you know that
Okay,
area.
yes. Yes.
And so her parents are out there. They have a wonderful house that when we're out, East Coast or a lot of the time when we are heading to Europe, we'll spend time with them, just kind of regroup there on the East Coast and then head out. And then we've got our house here, which I'm in right now in Minnesota, which is where I'm from, my town, Stillwater. And we got this house about 3 years ago, and it essentially acts as our expensive storage unit because we're never here. But when we are, we try to make the most of it because it's a great town and a great house. So.
And how is he how is he, I mean, he's 1.5 years old, but obviously he's learning about the world. How is it singing? Like how does he react to you guys singing around the house?
It's a good question. If it's loud stuff, he just goes, no, 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 no. Like as soon as I start. If it's something like a little bit, more melodic or soft, he'll kind of listen, but he's so used to us doing it now and just practicing around him. He'll just go grab his toys. Like if he knows we're in work mode, like today, Katie was singing, our piano's over here, but he was singing and he just went to the toy box and was like, all right, boom, this is my time to just do his own thing. And so I wouldn't say that he's always so excited about it, especially the operatic, like the big singing. But I mean, he loves a little, we sing lullabies. For some reason, he's totally into this old man, this old man, he will just walk around the house and go like every note. I'm like, wow, same key every time.
Wow.
That's his thing.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah,
quite. I mean, yeah, but I was talking to another singer, and they said the way for children to learn is from a young age because they start hearing it and they start getting
for
accustomed to
sure,
it. And
for sure.
some of them love it, some of them, well, who knows?
Yeah, no, we've definitely, we've gone overboard on the every book is one that plays music. Like he knows there's one book that plays Beethoven 9 and he came to one of my rehearsals when I did Beethoven 9 in March and the ba 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 and he was sitting there, saw me do it. Then he came home and he pressed that and it was obviously da 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 and he said da 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 because he knew it was the piece, which was that was pretty cool. I was like, oh, he's connecting, those dots.
I was gonna ask you, so you do bring him to rehearsals from time to time?
That
Is
was
he
the
like in
first.
that space?
That was the first one where he was at it was like a final dress at Minnesota Orchestra, and he did in one of the silent moments, like it was just Katie and him up in the back. Right before I had my the first quartet, I like stood up and there was kind of a moment of silence, and he just went, Dada! And it was like
Oh,
even the conductor was like, so he's still, we pick and choose. If he comes, he has like snuck into certain performances, but they're very close to a door because he likes to be heard.
yeah, and apparently to call out when he sees his father.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He knows when it's me on stage, and
Well, what's great is that your repertoire, you are Rossini tenor, and
absolutely.
whenever he sees his first opera, it will be hopefully one of those lighter bel
Yeah,
canto
I'm a little
roles.
bugs because his favorite is Figaro already, and I'm already so used to that. He's like, he has a book that has, Figaro, Figaro. And so whenever he hears that, he's like, and I'm like, but what about Ecco Ridente?
Not as exciting.
Not the same. Not the same.
Though the last aria is very exciting. So
That's true. That's true. He
it
hasn't
has
quite understood that one yet. He doesn't quite get that one yet, but
The Figaro Almaviva duet is one of my favorite pieces in that.
yeah, unbelievable. He does he has seen that as well, and we had a fun staging of it in San Francisco, so he enjoyed that.
it is a great work. You are known for Rossini and you are known for your bel canto works. So what and you've also performed in Pesaro, as you said, and Pesaro is the temple of Rossini. And what other Rossini works are you studying, or are you looking forward to doing in the near future, or you don't know yet?
Good question. Not interestingly enough, not many new Rossinis. I'm trying to think now if that's true. Not many new Rossinis. However, there are a lot of new bel canto roles coming up. I will do, can't say where, but I will do Pirata in a few years. It'd be really interesting. You don't get many chances to do that.
That's great. Yeah, it's a rare
So
one.
yeah, it's very, very rare, and I'm really looking forward to that. But I'm also, I'm adding a lot more of. I have sung Così, Tamino, Belmonte, but I'm doing more of that coming up as well. I've talked to my manager. I really want to get more of the Mozarts in the seasons right now because there's nothing better for your voice than Mozart. I feel like after I get done with a new Mozart role, I always sing the Rossini better. So I will do.
Can I jump in on that?
Yeah,
Because
please.
I hear that often from a lot of singers, and I'm always
Yeah.
curious. Everyone has a different answer, but why is Mozart the best thing for the voice? What about
frankly,
in
because
Mozart?
you can't cheat in Mozart.
Mm,
I think in Rossini, there are moments that to make it work, whether that be the tempo of the coloratura or that there are moments where you can cave into just making it work, frankly. With Mozart, it's like if you're not doing it right, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna, especially in I think more of the challenging tenor roles. He said a lot of the famous tenor arias are in difficult places for in the voice, una hora amorosa, etc. Like these are things that if you don't quite figure out how to sing una hora amorosa well, it's like people know,
Right.
it's like, that's just not lining up well. So for me, it was I definitely think these roles ground you. They don't ever go so high, so it's also like the whole night isn't focused on also like I got to make sure I get that high D and that C out at the end of the opera. It's like that stuff's important in Rossini. That stuff's important in the Puritanis and Pirata and are the big high notes. But I think you can sacrifice parts of your singing, in the middle voice and things if you are just focused on those notes. Obviously, the goal is for that not to be true. But if you do, and if you're choosing, people are going to go, I want the D to go boom.
Right.
And so Mozart, like I think the highest note I've seen Mozart is maybe B flat in Belmonte. It's like he just didn't do that very. That's not true. Mitridate, obviously, he has the C's, but I've never done that role. I've just sung the arias. But for the most part, the roles are just more grounded, more centered in the voice, and helps you find that part of the voice that also then actually help the high notes in the Rossini and the bel canto as well. So,
And I
so
do
I'll
see
do
that.
I'll do Tito for the first time this November. That'll be a new role for me, and then I'll also do Tamino at the end of the season again.
And I also see that you're doing Percy in Ana Bolena next season,
Yes,
which does
yes,
seem like a little bit more in the lyrical, not so much the lighter, but very much lyrical. And that is a very long work, a very long
very
role.
long, very challenging role. I've been working on that now for months. Uh, It is, yeah. I mean, it's just a really challenging role. I do think it starts to go into a little bit more of the lyric side, but I've heard from a lot of my colleagues who have sung it that it is just a really good kind of dip your toe in when you're just going past the Almavivas, the
Mhm.
Ernestos, those type of things, just to see where it's at. Obviously this is it's a one concert performance. If I feel I should wait till I do, several of those. Okay. That's how we do this. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
It's also great. It's also great because it's in a smaller house. Obviously, it's got a lot more
Absolutely.
attention.
And
Um,
concert, like
yeah.
concert really get to just like I said, just focus on the singing, and when you're trying to do all this stuff on stage, it's like I wish I could do every opera first as a concert. And then, we really should just do it with your colleagues, do a concert. I mean, you kind of do, I guess, with Azitspro, but it's just a little different. You do the performance, there's people there, the pressure's on, and you just sing it.
Not the same, of course. But yeah, I mean, it's an incredible work. That duet with Bolena in the first act is one of my favorites. The
Oh
way
yeah,
he
yeah,
wrote.
yes,
And I mean, and he has two very challenging and very high arias as well, with a lot of coloratura.
yep,
It's a very it's not, I wouldn't say it's Donizetti's best tenor role, but it's a very interesting
yeah,
work
yeah.
in the way that everyone talks about the soprano, but the role is
Oh
ridiculous.
man, it's crazy, and I didn't realize even like how long it is. It's like there are the two arias, but then there's just these ensembles that just go and go, and they're glorious. I mean, they're not just repeat, repeat, rinse, repeat music, like,
Hmm.
but it is. It's a lot of singing. It's a lot of singing.
It is. No, yes. I mean, it's one of my
I will
favorite.
not be partying on New Year's Eve. I'll say that much. So this says on the 2nd of January, so I'll be in bed by 8.
No, it's an incredible opera, and it's an incredible role. Anything else that you do see coming up that you're really excited about in this next season?
I mean, Paris, it'll be my debut with the opera there. I'm really looking forward to that. Obviously in Barber, but it's a really fun production. I know a lot of guys who have done it and say they have a great time. I hear it is very cardio driven. In Jessa, you have to like go up and down stairs. So I've promised myself this summer I'm running every morning to try to get my cardio back up. Once I had a kid, I was like, I don't run or work out anymore, so I need to change that. But no, the Paris debut, also it'll be my debut in Barcelona with both Tito and Tamino. So it's just a lot of new places. The Balena is the double debut, Geneva debut in Viaggio, which isn't, I'm doing Belfiore in Viaggio, and I did do that in concert in Pesaro, and I love that piece. And then the role is really beautiful, not so challenging. It's, one big duet essentially, but it's a new production, Laurent Pelly in Geneva. So yeah, there's just a lot of really exciting new places. I'll make my Carnegie Hall debut in recital in February.
Oh, wonderful.
Here. So looking forward to that too. I love doing recital. I haven't done it now in several years. I just haven't had time and they haven't lined up. So I'm looking forward to diving into some more of that too.
That's amazing. You're talking about cardio, and the first image that came to mind was I was watching this video on Instagram of Miley Cyrus singing while she was running, and that was her way of training for a concert. So there you go. And and they don't quite use as much of their body to sing. So there you go.
No, I mean, sometimes, like, honestly, when I do run and it's a good one, like, I feel like I'm already warmed up my voice. It's like, it's such a good way to also for the voice too. I mean, obviously for the cardio, but it warms it up right away. That morning voice disappears if you do 2-3 miles.
Well, thank you so much, Jack. This has been a pleasure to be able to speak to you, to be able to hear more of your story, and thank you so much for the time.
Thank you. And I'm sorry that as we've been speaking, it's getting darker outside. I'm like starting to disappear into the screen, but hopefully they can see me. And thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Of course, it was our pleasure. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you to everyone who's listening in on this episode. As always, you can catch us on all of our social media accounts. And of course, we thank you very much for today, and we'll see you at the opera.
Thank you.